Hello, friends. Somewhere in your life, there is probably a person, a mum, a dad, an older brother or sister, a husband or a wife, who is quietly receiving less state pension every single week than they are actually owed. Not because they did anything wrong, because no one ever told them one specific rule that applies to the year they were born. And here is the hard part. The DWP will never ring them to point it out. The system does not work that way. It waits to be asked, and most people never know there is a question to ask. So if you were born between 1950 and 1965, listen closely, because this is your money. But if someone you love falls in that range, listen just as closely, because you may be the only person in their life who ever catches this in time. There is a reason I keep saying before the end of July, and I will come to it. Group by group, I am going to show you exactly what to check and the exact call to make. Let us begin. Before we start, subscribe and turn on the bell. This is the reason this channel exists. The practical things that matter, explained while there is still time to act on them, not after. Subscribe now and let us get into the first group. There are 3 birth year groups in this range, and the rule is different for every one of them. If your person or you was born between April 1960 and March 1961, you are in the group where timing matters most urgently right now. If they were born after that, up to the late 1970s, their pension age is now fixed, and the question is whether their record is complete. And if they were born in the 1950s and are already being paid, the question is whether they are being paid correctly. Let us take them in turn. This is the group to check today because people in it are reaching their pension age this very month. Here is what almost nobody realizes. Because the state pension age started rising from 66 towards 67 in April 2026, everyone born between the 6th of April 1960 and the 5th of March 1961 has a different pension age. Not 66, not 67, but somewhere in between. It goes up by roughly 1 month for each month of birth, from 66 years and 1 month at the start of that range to 66 years and 11 months at the end. So the person you are watching this for cannot assume it is their 66th birthday. It could be 1, 2, 3 months later, and the exact date is on the free state pension age calculator on gov.uk. Please check it for them, because this is where money quietly goes missing. The state pension is not paid automatically. Nobody starts it for you. If they have been waiting for their 66th birthday, not knowing their real date fell a few months later, the claim may never have been made, and every single week without a claim is a week of the full rate, £241.30, simply not arriving. Now, here is the part the DWP will not offer. When they finally call to claim, they can ask for the pension to be backdated by up to 12 months. They do not have to explain why they delayed, they just have to ask. On the full new state pension, 12 months backdated is a lump sum of over £12,500, arriving with the first payment. But if nobody asks, nobody gets it. When you call the pension service to make the claim, say clearly, I want to backdate this to the earliest possible date. The second group is anyone born after the 5th of March 1961, broadly through the 1960s and into the 1970s. For this group, the rule is now settled and simple. The state pension age is exactly 67. No months, no in between. Their 67th birthday to the day. For this group, the question is not when, it is how much. And this is where you can genuinely change what someone receives for the rest of their life. The full new state pension in 2026 to 27 is £241.30 a week. But you only get the full amount with about 35 qualifying years of national insurance. If their record has gaps, years part-time below the threshold, years raising children, years self-employed and not recorded, they get less. Someone with 29 years instead of 35 might be on around £200 a week. That gap of roughly £41 a week is over £2,100 a year, and across a 20-year retirement, more than £42,000 gone. The fix is voluntary national insurance contributions. Every full year you fill adds roughly £6.89 a week to the pension for life, and a recent year costs somewhere around £900 to fill. So it pays itself back in under 3 years and then keeps paying. But the window only reaches back 6 tax years. A gap from 2020 to 2021 that can still be filled today becomes permanently unfillable after April 2027. That is the deadline behind the urgency. Here is what it looks like in real life. A woman born in 1963 checked her record and found 4 gap years from part-time work. She filled all 4 for around £3,600, and her pension rose by over £27 a week, more than £28,000 across her retirement. She almost did nothing, because no one had ever shown her the maths. Before paying a penny, ring the Future Pension Centre to confirm which gaps would actually raise the payment, because for some records, they don't. The third group are those born in the 1950s who are already receiving their pension. For them, the question is different, and it is the one nobody thinks to ask. Not what will I get, but is what I'm already getting correct? 2 specific things quietly underpay this group for years, and most people never discover either. The first is errors in the national insurance record. For anyone who worked through the 1970s, 80s and 90s, payroll was reported on paper, and mistakes were common. A year showing as not full on the record, where the person knows they were working, is a year cutting their pension by around £6.89 a week, permanently, unless it is corrected. Fixing it needs evidence, an old P60, wage slips, bank statements, and starts with a call to HMRC's National Insurance Helpline. Here is a real one. A man in his late 60s had been paid around £209 a week for 4 years. His daughter checked his record and found 3 years in the late 90s marked as gaps, years where an employer had filed incorrect payroll before going out of business. He dug out his old P60, HMRC investigated, and the record was corrected. His pension rose to over £228 a week, and 4 years of the difference arrived as a single lump sum of over £4,000. His daughter caught that. He never would have. The second is inherited pension for widows and widowers. If a husband or wife has died and they had built up additional state pension under the old SERPS system, and they reached pension age before April 2016, the survivor may be entitled to inherit between 50 and 100% of that additional amount on top of their own pension. The DWP does not always apply this correctly, especially where the late spouse reached pension age before March 2008. If the person you are watching this for is widowed and has never specifically asked the pension service to review their inherited entitlement, that call is worth making. The correction comes as a backdated lump sum, and the weekly amount rises permanently. So here is what to do this week for yourself or for the person you had in mind while watching. If they were born between April 1960 and March 1961, find their exact pension age on the gov.uk calculator today. Those born in May, June and July of 1960 are reaching it right now. Then call the pension service to claim and ask to backdate to the earliest possible date. If they were born after March 1961, their pension age is 67. Check their national insurance record on gov.uk for gaps that can still be filled before the April 2027 deadline, and call the Future Pension Centre to confirm which ones would actually raise the payment before spending anything. If they are already being paid and were born in the 1950s, check their record for old employer errors, and call HMRC if a working year shows as a gap. And if they are widowed, ask the pension service whether inherited entitlement from their late spouse has ever been applied. The number arriving in their account every 4 weeks is not always the number they are owed. Their birth year, their birth month, the accuracy of their record, and whether anyone has ever asked these questions, that is what decides the final amount. And the one thing the system will never do is ask on their behalf. That part is down to us. So if there is one person this could be true for, send them this, or better, sit down and check it with them before July ends. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.